So it looks like Resident Evil 9 DLC might actually be real, and if the rumors are true, we could finally be getting in late 2026. Now this honestly makes a lot of sense, because Resident Evil 9 is already being considered one of the best games in the franchise. Some fans may agree with that, some may not, but overall the reception has been extremely positive. Because of that, a DLC expansion would feel completely justified. And according to recent rumors and insider information, Capcom might actually be planning 2 separate DLC expansions for Resident Evil 9. Yes, not just one, 2 DLCs. Now, the first DLC is rumored to be completely focused on Leon S. Kennedy, and if you watched my previous video where I talked about the possibility of DLC, you probably already know that insider Dusk Golem mentioned that launch content was being considered for the game. If you look at Capcom's history with the Resident Evil franchise, this idea becomes even more believable. After Resident Evil 6, almost every major Resident Evil title has received some kind of DLC expansion. For example, Resident Evil 7 had multiple story DLCs like Not a Hero and End of Zoe. Then Resident Evil Village got the Shadows of Rose expansion. Even the remakes received additional content. So based on that pattern alone, it would be very surprising if Resident Evil 9 didn't get any DLC at all. That's why many fans believe it's basically guaranteed that we will see some kind of expansion sooner or later. Now let's talk about what this first DLC could actually be about. And before I continue, minor spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't finished the game yet. At the end of Resident Evil 9, we see a mysterious character named Alpha, who delivers a message specifically for Leon. And the interesting part is that this message actually comes from Chris Redfield. Now, what makes this situation so intriguing is that Chris is involved in the events of Resident Evil 9, but he isn't directly present throughout most of the story. Instead, it feels like he's pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Leon himself doesn't fully know where Chris is or what he's planning, so this could be the perfect setup for a DLC storyline. Imagine a scenario where the DLC follows Leon as he tries to track down Chris, uncover what he's been investigating, and understand the bigger threat that's starting to emerge. But that's not the only mystery the DLC could explore. We also have the introduction of Zeno, who is rumored to be a clone of Albert Wesker. And if that turns out to be true, it could have huge implications for the future of the franchise. Albert Wesker has always been one of the most iconic villains in Resident Evil history, so the idea of a clone or successor carrying on his legacy could open the door for a much larger storyline. This is why many fans believe the first DLC would focus heavily on Leon and Chris working together, possibly investigating this new Wesker-related threat. But things might not stop there, because the rumors suggest that a second DLC could also be in development, and this second expansion might be even more important. According to speculation, the second DLC could focus directly on Albert Wesker, or at least the legacy surrounding him. Instead of just being a side story, this DLC might actually start setting up the events for Resident Evil 10. If that's the case, it could act as a bridge between the two games, similar to how some previous Resident Evil expansions expanded the larger narrative. And if Resident Evil 10 truly focuses on the Wesker storyline, there's a very good chance that Chris Redfield could become the main protagonist again. Because when it comes to Wesker, Chris has always been the character most connected to that conflict. Leon, on the other hand, might not want to continue dealing with these global terror threats forever. After everything he's been through over the years, it wouldn't be surprising if Capcom eventually gave him a smaller role moving forward. But there is another character we still haven't talked about, and that's Ada Wong. Right now, we still don't know what Ada is doing during the events of Resident Evil 9. She has always been a mysterious character who appears at key moments in the story, often working in the shadows with her own agenda. So it's very possible that one of these DLCs could reveal Ada's involvement or show what she has been doing behind the scenes. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising if Ada somehow had a connection to the new Wesker clone storyline. After all, she has always been linked to secret organizations, weapons, and covert missions. So bringing her back into the story could make the DLC even more exciting. But of course, it's important to remember that all of this is still speculation for now. Nothing has been officially confirmed by Capcom yet. However, when you look at the history of Resident Evil DLC, the insider rumors, and the way Resident Evil 9's story ends, it definitely feels like Capcom is setting up something bigger. And if we really do get 2 DLC expansions in 2026, it could expand the story in a huge way and start building the path toward Resident Evil 10. But of course, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Resident Evil 9 will actually get DLC? And if it does, would you rather see a Leon-focused story, a Chris Redfield mission, or maybe even something involving Ada Wong or Wesker? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on Resident Evil news, rumors, and future updates, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.